Vince, how about I just hit you with some rapid fire?
Oh, hit me.
Because I feel like this offensive line thing, we should go ahead and just jump in with some offensive line talk.
Yeah,
and
let's do it.
Who better to get us going with some offensive line coach than with some offensive line talk than offensive line coach Joe Rudolph. He was one of the people who we got to talk to this morning after practice over at Notre Dame. And here's what he had to say about Rocco Spindler.
It's been amazing the way he's worked to get himself back to the beginning of spring. And, we weren't sure if we would have him at all in spring or limited in spring. And I would say he's like, I don't know if it's 90%, but he's doing most everything, but trying to be smart on a couple issues. But excited for him to be back and really proud of him that fought himself to get here and be ready to go.
All right, so there's Joe Rudolph talking about Rocco Spindler. He was back out there doing a little bit today. So there were a slew of questions. I'll boil them down to a couple that Salty had. He said, Billy Schrauth has continued to show impressive quickness, explosiveness, and pad level in practice. Is he a lock at starting right guard? Could he reach Quentin Nelson's level? He also says Pat Coogan has been solid at first-team left guard in practice, but not equal to Schrauth at right guard. Sam Pendleton, second-team left guard. Will Sam be the starting left guard by fall? So kind of keep those, I think, in the back of your mind as we address the Rocco Spindler. Is what happened, because like Rocco Spindler still factors in there as well, even though he,
100%.
Because he was a starting right guard last year. So is what happens with him the biggest question that the offensive line has, or how do you look at sort of these other factors that Salty is outlining around it as well?
Loaded questions. I'm trying to decide how to attack this thing. Is Rocco Spindler part of this? 100%. He's a returning starter, and the only reason he wasn't starting down the stretch is because he got hurt. Period. And so he should have every opportunity to fight for a starting position. Now, I think we can all agree also that guard, are there nuances between right guard and left guard? Absolutely. You're down with one hand, one you're down with another, and sometimes that really affects certain guys, doesn't affect other guys. It depends, right? There are 3 to 4 guys competing for starting guard spots. I would say of all 4, I would say that Billy Schrauth has the biggest hold on one of those starting spots. And I would say the other spot is wide open. I would say that. I think from a talent standpoint, it has to be that way. And that's nothing against Pat Coogan. It's just I think there are guys that could be potentially better than he is. We'll see. If he's the most consistent, though, if you can count on him to always go to the right place and do the right thing, and then he continues to get stronger and faster, then he's going to be able to hold on to that spot, right?
Yeah.
But none of these guys should be complacent with where they are. No. I think there's the most competition at the guard spots right now because the depth is so good.
I agree. And how Spindler factors in when he is 100%, because again, he was out there at least a little bit, with the second string when we were out there.
Yeah.
That, again, they're not in full pad, so they're not doing everything out there. But the fact that he is out there already, I think, says a lot. And really, it kind of seems like you've probably got, what is it? 1, 2, 3. Basically, you've got 4 guys for the 2. I guess that's what you'd have. But it's kind of, that's what it is. Spindler is going to factor into this. And whether, because the other, the first part that Salty said, he's continued to show impressive quickness, explosive, and pad level. I would expect Billy Schrauth is going to have one of the spots. Like, do you consider him a lock at right guard, or like how
it matters?
Does it matter like which one he's at?
I don't think it matters, to be perfectly honest with you. I wouldn't half mind seeing, Billy Schrauth and Charles Jagasaw on the same side together. But obviously that would mean he would have to move over to the left side. So, excuse me, that was weird. I think he could start at either spot. And then because I think he could start at either spot, then whoever comes in second place, where are they the most comfortable? And that's where you put the guy who comes in second. You put them at their most comfortable spot, and you allow Billy to just dominate at either one.
Yeah.
That's how I would do it.
Yeah, I think so as well. But again, Spindler is going to be a factor in it.
Yeah.
It's going to, like, remember last year, we kind of thought we had a pretty good feel for what was going to happen coming out of spring, and then fall training camp rolled around and things ended up being a lot different.
Oh yeah.
When it was all said and done.
Yep. And that could very well happen again this year. I mean, they're going with the same 5 that they had in the bowl game. I'm not surprised by that that's the way they're starting out spring. That doesn't surprise me in any way. Let's see what happens once they put the pads on. They start knocking each other around a little bit. The jersey scrimmage, will be coming up, in April. And then, of course, you've got spring balls, the spring game. So, I think it's anybody's game. And this is a great problem to have, folks, that you have competition at these spots. I mean, that's,
and look, they kill it in offensive line recruiting all the time.
Yeah.
Right? So, exactly. You expect them to have this kind of problem.
100%.
And you obviously don't want injuries to occur, but you can feel a little bit more secure if you get in, midway through the season. Just like last year. Look at what happened when Spindler went out. It gave Schrauth an opportunity, and Schrauth made the most of it.
Absolutely.
So,
they're going to be good to go with whoever they end up with, is what I feel like. And like we said, there could be 4 brand new starters on this line that weren't there at game 1 last year. That's a lot. But
so the other part of Salty's question, and he's answering it himself in the chat. He says, could he reach Quentin Nelson's level? And I mean, let's remember Quentin Nelson.
That's a high bar.
Yeah, I mean, like, he's an offensive guard who was drafted in the top 10. That doesn't happen very often. And he's plugged right in with the Colts and been all pro all but a couple years, I think. And it's really been, like some injuries the last couple of years that have really slowed him down. So that's a huge bar to set. Could he be dominant? Absolutely. Quentin Nelson good, though, is a completely different story. Like, literally a mauler, again, who, like, he was an outlier. You just don't see guards go in the NFL draft where Quentin Nelson went.
I mean, that's what's going to be my exact point. He was a guard who went in the top 10. And I can't remember exactly where he went, but I know it was in the top 10. Guards don't go in the top 10.
Right.
That's how once in a generation good he was and is. And so, could Billy get there? It's a possibility, but that is a high bar to set and to reach. That's going to be tough.
I mean, it's about as high a bar as you could,
Absolutely.
They could easily just call Notre Dame's Offensive Lineman of the Year award the Quentin Nelson award.
And I don't think anybody would have a complaint about that. Like if they had an interior award or something like that, would not be a problem. Would not be. And look, Notre Dame, after Joe Alt gets drafted, probably number 7 to the Titans. Thank you. I've seen that 1,000 times. They're going to have 3 offensive linemen that have gone in the top 10 in the last 8 drafts, I think is what it was.
Mm-hmm.
That, I mean, hello, O-line you. Notre Dame is putting out some dudes, okay? It's, again, high bar to reach for sure.
Okay, let's go to the other side of the ball. We had the chance to talk to Al Washington today as well, the defensive line coach. And this isn't necessarily anything related to the defensive line right now, although we'll have some more of those comments on tomorrow's show, just so you're aware. Pro day tomorrow, by the way. So we'll have some pro day stuff and, some more comments from
what time is pro day?
Media
like
session.
10 o'clock, something like that?
It begins like the preliminary kind of stuff that apparently we're not allowed to see starts around 10:15.
Okay.
So they advised us to kind of come a little bit later around the time when the 40-yard dash and all that kind of stuff, because since that's really, what most people want to see is guys run the 40s, especially
linemen.
Well, I'm going to say Audric Estime, one guy in particular.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So Al Washington, he, of course, interviewed at his alma mater, Boston College, remember. I guess it's been, about a month or so ago? He interviewed for the head coaching vacancy there. This is the first time we've had a chance to talk to him since then. So here's what Washington said about that.
To be honest, man, it was so fast. Things happen fast, and I can tell you, man, it was a great experience. It was great to think about the big picture, and it was great to be connected with my old school. And obviously, the way I looked at it, I'm in a no-lose situation. My family's happy here, and so it wasn't something where you go for broke. But the reality is, that would have been a great opportunity too, But my daughter she was happy I didn't get it, so hey. It's funny, when we found out, she said, good. I said, okay.
How old is she?
She's 6 years old. So, but yeah, so it was great, man. It was great, and I want to be great where I am. I want to be continue to work on being a better coach, but if the stars align again, I'll be better for it.
Vince, his daughter didn't even want him to get the job.
I think that's great. I think that's awesome, by the way, because kids will tell you what's up, man. Like they will tell you what is up, and I think that's funny because, of course, she's 6 years old. She didn't want to leave her friends and leave what she knows. Like she didn't want to go anywhere. So
what's 6? Is that like first grade, kindergarten, somewhere around that area?
I believe that is probably ending kindergarten. You know what I mean? So kindergarten. Yeah.
I know. It kind of like he said with the other stuff there. Look, he's gone through the process now, and he said it kind of opened his eyes to the big picture. And,
that's true,
and things like that. So it sounds like a good experience. I'm sure that. He interviewed for it. It was his alma mater, and he had to be, had a chance to become a head coach. So I'm sure he was a little bit disappointed. You could hear hints of that, but at the same time, you still got a great opportunity here and a great position at Notre Dame.
Look, I think the vast majority of us have interviewed for jobs that we didn't get. And you spend time when you're preparing for the interview, or like maybe just after the interview, if you felt like it went well, kind of imagining yourself in that position. And then when you don't get it, of course there's going to be some disappointment.
Definitely
and a little bit of devastation, right? That's just how it is. And then you kind of regroup and you get back at it. And at the end of the day, a lot of times those opportunities will, that shut door will open a door someplace else. And that's where you were meant to be. You know what I mean? And I've had that happen to me a bunch of times in the past. I'm sure that's happened to you in the past as well.
Yep.
And so I'm sure he could take plenty of positives from it, from the interview process and all of those different things. And I'm sure it was also nice to get back on campus where he went to school. That all by itself was probably pretty neat. You know what I mean? Kind of getting the red carpet rolled out for you and all those fun things. And so I'm sure it was a hell of an experience for him. And I'm sure he learned a lot from it.
Yeah. Just got to convince his daughter next time.
Yeah. Good luck with that. Is what I would say. Good luck.
South Bend, Boston, the weather sure wouldn't be much different. You'd have more
true.
Dunkin' Donuts. Even though there's more Dunkin' Donuts now here around town every time you round the corner, but at the same time, you go to Boston, you definitely have more Dunkin' anyway.
That's right. It's not they took away the donuts. It's just
Dunkin'. That's right.
They rebranded themselves.
Yep. I'm all about the coffee anyway. Like I can't even remember the last time I bought a donut when I went to Dunkin'.
Fair.
I'm all about the coffee. You know what a coffee fiend I am. So
I do. I've been in the car when you've ordered from Dunkin'.
That's very true. Yeah, Brandon, the combine's going to be on Peacock tomorrow, and I think Tony Simeone and Corey Robinson, I believe I saw, are going to be kind of doing the the TV work.
That would be a brutal telecast to have to announce. There's going to be so much downtime in between things, and so I'm sorry,
a lot of video, a lot of just let it roll.
That's true. Yeah. Right. That would be brutal.
Yep. Pro Day tomorrow. So we've got that again coming up tomorrow over at Notre Dame. So back to the offensive line. The biggest topic of conversation for Aamil Wagner has been his weight. His official listed weight on the Notre Dame website is 281 pounds. Now, he said today that he is closer to 290 now. So he said he's already put on a little bit of weight. But here's kind of the rundown. He said what it looks like is he is trying to pack on the pounds now, getting close to closer to 300 pounds.
I think at my peak, I was eating nearly like 8,000 calories. I think we tracked it one time. I had like 4,500 for a breakfast one time, and it was like 5 eggs, burrito, potatoes, 1,500 calories in muffins, 2,000 in the shake. And so really just being able to put those calories in and put the work in. A lot of people will see it like, or think it's like a chore for me, but really it's just another step in my process of improvement. And so I don't mind it at all.
8,000 calories. Would that be more punishment or reward, eating 8,000 calories a day? Have you ever even like sat and looked at what your calorie intake is? Do you have any clue like how many calories you might put in your body a day?
Sean Stiers, you have sat and looked at me. So I think you know the answer to that question. I have no idea how many calories are in what. I have no idea. But I would also say...
So you're like me when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
Zero clue. It's just eat.
Yes. Just eat and go and have a great time with it. It's why this is this. But I would say that 8,000 calories is probably like 8,000 calories in this body would be a lot different than 8,000 calories in his body, who's pushing 7 foot, as opposed to me, who's barely not even pushing 6 foot. You know what I mean? So like, it's a little bit different from a scenario, like, that kind of a scenario, but it would be punishment to me. Like, there's no way I could hold that much food in my body. There's no chance.
Like when we go to breakfast, everyone, like maybe every couple months we'll do breakfast on a Sunday morning or something like that. And that's just like typical, like some eggs, a biscuit, some sausage, some bacon, like some, hash browns or, like that. That's not that much. It's probably a couple 1,000 calories alone right there. But I am just wasted the rest of the day just from going out to breakfast. And that's even if I get out and do some exercise before we go to breakfast, which in theory, kind of get your engine revved up a little bit. I could trying to stuff. Now, granted, he's like, a foot taller than me and, obviously a lot longer frame and the whole thing to begin with. And his metabolism has got to be crazier just because he's also a lot younger than either one of us. But
yes,
8,000 calories, man. I just shove it. I think wasn't Michael Phelps like back when he was swimming, something like 10 to 12,000 calories a day.
Swimmers burn
with all
calories.
Of his training.
Yeah, swimmers burn calories like crazy, and they're in the pool.
There it is,
hours and hours and hours at a time.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me at all. Look, when I was a teenager, and like me and my friends would hit like Ryan Steakhouse or something like that. Like they lost money with us walking in the door. Like there's no doubt about that. I can't put it away like I used to. You know what I mean? But I would be very curious to see how many calories I used to put away when I was a teenager, when I was playing 3 sports a year and like,
I don't even know
all those things.
Like somebody, I think DK said the pizzas. Like I would definitely. I love pizza, so I would be eating a lot of pizza. I would be eating a lot of burgers, probably a lot of tacos. And But again, like at some point, it gets old, I think.
And there's only so much space in your belly. You know what I mean? Like my stomach is so much small. Well, my internal stomach is so much smaller than it ever used to be when I was a kid. Like I can't eat that much. Like I just can't do. I only eat 2 meals a day, even now. A moderate breakfast and then dinner. Like that's what I eat. I don't eat lunch
twice a day. That's right.
I don't eat lunch. People are like, how can you not eat lunch? I'm like, well, I'm too busy. I don't even have time to sit down. But like, I've gotten used to it. So like my body is like, okay, breakfast, dinner. There we go. Let's roll. So yeah, that's a lot of calories, man.
Brandon wants to know if we're buying Wagner at 290. I mean,
I didn't go down there and try to pick him up.
Right. Now,
like skinny. He looks
what's
skinny.
The difference? Like
10 pounds.
He's a pretty good sized guy. Standing, granted, he was sitting and I was standing, but like 10-pound difference between 280 and 290. It's hard to differentiate for me.
Right. But 10 pounds on that big of a frame.
He was like, you could tell, because he talked about not just the, he said he's having a hard time, kind of packing on, sort of like the extra, fat, to really build the girth. But at the same time, he said he's added a lot of muscle since he's been here, just with, with the between Matt Bayless and now Lauren Lando with the training that that he's doing with them, that the muscle has come. And Josh Burnham was asked today about Aamil Wagner as well, and said you can tell that he's a lot stronger now. When you're going up,
he goes up against him.
So that's if it's muscle, good weight, as opposed to just pure girth from all those extra pizzas and burgers and stuff like that. He's just got one of those frames where it's going to be a challenge for him to try to pack that on. It's just always going to be a challenge. And as soon as he's done playing football, he's probably going to immediately drop down to 250 again,
Right.
So
yeah, seriously.
Tough problem to have. I know.
Yeah, no doubt. He's going to, but that's again, I'm sure a lot of the offensive linemen are on similar diets, to be honest with you. And that's why, Joe Thomas, for example, or a lot of these offensive linemen that once they're done playing, it's like somebody took the air out of them. They get down and they look great. They look fantastic. It's amazing. You'd never guess that they were offensive linemen at the highest level,
Exactly. Fill in the blank. Hannah Hidalgo being named a first-team Associated Press All-American today is blank.
Payoff for a great season. I have a hard time disagreeing with it, with the stats that she put up and the big moments that she's had already. And now we get to see what they're going to do in the tournament and possibly some big moments there. I think she absolutely deserves it. Yeah, she's a freshman, but this team isn't where they are right now without her. There's no doubt about that.
Handful of things here. Juju Watkins, the USC freshman guard, was also named AP All-American today. Those two, they did it in the same year, obviously. There are only 5 freshmen all time who have been named first team AP All-American, and 2 of them just did it this year. Hannah Hidalgo is one of them. So think of it in that aspect.
Wow.
Only 5 have ever done it, and Hidalgo did it.
And there you go.
2, I find it pretty striking that she's named AP First Team All-American, not Second Team All-American. There are no other ACC players who are named First Team All-American. She was not the ACC Player of the Year. I think that this trumps ACC Player of the Year, though.
I agree, 100%. Because you know what? All-Americans, like in the football stadium, the All-Americans get a nice area. They get a helmet put up and the whole deal, right? And I'm sure they've got something similar to that over in Rolfs, where the women and the men have their practice facility and all of that. It's a much bigger award than an ACC Player of the Year. Much bigger award. So congratulations to her. She absolutely deserves it, and deserved ACC Player of the Year as well. But hey, man, you can take this one to the
nice
bank.
Consolation if you can be first team All-American, I think.
I like it.
One of the most prestigious All-American honors that you can get.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So in your men's bracket, Vince, which number 1 seed is most likely to be upset the earliest?
So this was tough because I have been slacking on finishing up my men's bracket because I need to do more research, right? My son comes home, he's like, I've got 4 ready to go. And I'm like, well, you only need to pick 1 to be in the IB one. And he did. But anyway, looking at the number 1s, I'm going to go with Houston. I think they have the ability to be upset first. I think they could have potentially a tough game against Duke. They're the weakest of the 4 to me, of the 4 number 1s. And so I was very tempted to go with Purdue on this one. Yeah. Because Purdue don't trust them in the big games.
And that's it. Purdue is who it should be. Like Brandon says, Purdue or Houston. It's funny because I've got Houston going to the Final Four, but I could easily see them getting knocked out. Like the way they got thumped by Iowa State in the Big 12 championship game last week after putting a thumping on Kansas right before the Big 12 tournament. And, they also got thumped by Kansas back at home about a month ago. So it's like, what team is this Houston team? And I think you can say that about just about all these teams, though.
You can, yeah.
when I looked at the bracket for these teams, it's like everyone's talking about how tough the UConn bracket is. I really don't think it's all that tough. And I look at the path for most of these number ones, it's not that tough. And that includes Purdue. And here's the thing about Purdue, because you're right, like they have never fared well in the tournament. And I really, again, continue to be unimpressed by their guard play. But do you remember what happened to Purdue last year? They became just the second number 1 seed to lose to a 16 seed when they lost to Fairleigh Dickinson.
Oh,
in the first round.
Because I'm pretty sure I had Purdue winning it all last year in my bracket. So
I'm sure you did.
I remember.
What happened the last time a number 1 seed, Virginia, remember when they got beat by UMBC in the first round? What did they do the next year? They won the national championship.
Yeah.
So, like,
good point.
Now, that doesn't mean Purdue's going to, but history says, like, just because you stunk it up one year.
Not wrong.
So I don't know, man. I still think that it's Purdue just based on their history, because they don't tend to fare well come tournament time.
Yeah.
They're too reliant on Zach Edey. So
you need guard play in the tournament, and their guard play is less than stellar.
Yep. So I'll stick with Purdue, even though, like, looking at the matchups, I don't see, like, there's no team that jumps out and says like this is going to be the one that does it. I'm just looking at their history.
Yeah.
Will it be Utah State in the second round? Gonzaga and Kansas are both over there on the same side of the bracket with them, but neither one of them are as good this year as they usually are. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'll go with Purdue. I'm going to stick with Purdue.
I love it. Awesome.
All right. Last question tonight. I saw this posted the other day. If you could choose one of these options, which would you pick? You can travel 50 years into the past, you can travel 50 years into the future, or you can have $100 million. Which of those 3 options are you picking?
So I spent way too much time thinking about this particular question, and I don't know why, but I've always liked the history, right? I've always liked history. I went to school. I got a history degree, right? So I've always liked history. The problem is 50 years ago, it's in the 70s. Like, that's not the history that I really want to hang out in.
Wow, that's true. 50. That's how old I'm getting.
I know.
I was thinking 50 years was the 60s.
I had to think about it too.
When I was born.
That's the sad part. Okay.
But you're right. 50 years ago is 1974.
Right.
Like,
I have no desire to go to 1974.
Yeah.
I would much rather go to like the 50s or something like that. Like that. I've always kind of dreamed about living in the 50s, like where you wear a suit and a matching hat and like the whole thing. Like I always thought that was kind of cool, right? So I got to scratch the going in the past for 50 years because I have no desire to live in the 70s. Okay. Now going ahead 50 years, I think that could be very intriguing, kind of the Back to the Future vibes and, that whole thing. Love that trilogy.
50 years is a long time, though. It's like you don't know what you're getting yourself into.
Oh,
at least going to the past, you know what's there.
This is true. But at the end of the day, and this is going to sound corny, and that's fine, I'll take the $100 million and hang out with my family and friends that I know I have.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave them. I don't want to leave my family and my friends.
Because on the one side, the benefit to going back into the past is, you know, like what all the results of all these, like the World Series and the Super Bowl and, all these different things, all these championships are going to be. So you could lay a little something on that.
It's true. You can make some money.
Assuming you're going back at your full age and you're not going to regress to like what you were, like that's before you were born. So I guess
true. I'd be a fetus.
Yeah. So like you could do that. I was thinking that you could do something like invest in Apple or Nike or whatever, but I don't even know, like,
right.
Like if you could only kind of hang out like 50 years ago, like obviously some of those things weren't even around then. So I don't even know that you could necessarily invest in those things.
Sure.
So, and like I said, you go to the future, you don't know what you're getting yourself into.
Seriously.
Like, are you going to run into the Terminator, 50 years down the road, which by the way, I think wasn't the Terminator like supposed to have been like from sometime kind of around this year,
really?
Like
I'd have to look that up. Yeah.
I think so. I think we're right in, like where that was supposed to be set originally, but I agree. I'll just take the $100 million. You don't have to worry about time travel. And
That's a lot of money, and I would say that
no butterfly effects,
right?
Any of that stuff.
If you really want me to consider going back or forward or what, you got to lower that dollar amount. Like $100 million is a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
That's a lot. I would take 10 million. I would take $1 million.
Right.
And still stay. Honestly,
if it was only $1 million, that would kind of change things.
Okay, so that's the amount for you.
It would make me think a little bit more. Like $1 million is still a nice amount of money.
Sure,
but again, like I think that I could go back, set up a couple of bank accounts, and lay some wagers, for all these championship events, and make more than $1 million. And you make it back then, and you adjust for inflation by the time you get here. I think you're doing pretty well if it's only $1 million.
You're just a Biff Tannen at heart.
That's right. Get that book.
Gray's Sports Almanac.
That's right. Brandon wants to know how far I think Kansas is going. I'm going to be honest, Brandon. I don't think they're probably going very far. I filled out my bracket, of course, before they announced that Lance McCullers Jr. is going to miss the entire tournament. I actually do have them knocking off Purdue. Again, because I think Purdue is they're going to get knocked out, earlier than a number one seed should. How much I actually believe Kansas is going to do that is not really very existent, but there's no money on the line for this bracket. So I felt like I kind of had to. My thinking was there's nothing expected of them going into this tournament compared, to the last.
That's fair.
Years.
Yeah,
so,
that's fair.
So maybe they ride it a little bit farther, but I legitimately don't think they will. So, all right. Well, that is going to do it for tonight. Appreciate you as always. Again, we've got Notre Dame's Pro Day tomorrow over at the old Irish Athletic Center. Did you have something to say?
One final reminder about our bracket challenge.
That's right.
Go over to ESPN, create a profile. IB Nation Sports Talk is the group. So come on and join. We have just under 100 people in the men's bracket, 96 currently, and we're up to 36 in the women's bracket. So you can fill out a bracket, one for the men's, one for the women's. Jump in. Let's have some fun. We will be talking about it over the next, few weeks and checking out the leaderboard and seeing where everybody's at and having some fun with it. So make sure you guys get over there. And again, the password is Irish Breakdown, all one word, capital I, capital B. Obviously, a lot of people have figured it out. So come on over and join us.
Grand prize is you get to sit in a time travel course taught by Vince D'Addario. So
it's all based on the supplemental materials. We'll be Back to the Future trilogy. So
That's right. All right. Hit the like button before you go. And of course, subscribe, rate, and review. And we will talk to you tomorrow on IB Nation Sports Talk.
See you.